Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 11 of the Kids from It podcast. We're joined today by Sam Logan. Sam, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be good times. This is the first interview where all four of us, I think, are interviewing a guest. I'm pretty sure every other time has been three people interviewing a guest, but we got the whole band together for this one, Sam. So I hope you feel honored.
I rolled out the red carpet.
Thanks so much.
This is good stuff. So, Sam and I go way back. Just like Justin and I from the last episode, we attended Maranatha Baptist Bible College, currently Maranatha Baptist University, together back in the early 2000s. And I had Sam on my individual YouTube channel, which is Powers Taken Not Given. By the way, if you guys don't follow that, you should. The guy's got some pretty good content over there. But we had in fact, Sam, I think you were the first person I interviewed on my channel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were. Yeah. So yeah, it's come full circle here. And Sam is a great guy. We kept in contact a lot over the years. And Kai, and I was talking about this earlier before we started filming, is that Sam is a former fundamentalist and currently a Christian. And I think you're the first person that we've interviewed that fits in that vein so far. So going to get some good insight into how, he ended up here. So we'll start things off, Sam, by just getting a little bit about you and your background and, where you grew up, what your influences were in life, and, how, what do you credit to leading you to becoming the outstanding person you are today?
Well, first, I'm totally taken off guard. I thought this was a Stephen King appreciation podcast.
It is.
I'm prepared to talk about myself today. Okay, my background. My background is I feel like I should have some type of diploma for some type of Christian, because pretty much born into it. Kindergarten through all the way through college, in the independent fundamental Baptist schools and college, and I attended church 3 times a week for a very long time. And very, very familiar with a lot of what I've heard on your guys' show previously. No, I'm not. And I even investigated some of this on my own podcast, and a lot of it was seeing. I had my experience, but I'm glad you guys have an entire podcast dedicated to this because it helps give so many other perspectives that I haven't heard, that other people need to. Because when I did my podcast, I learned, okay, this is my experience with the guy. But then hearing from others like, hey, this is what it was like as a woman in the same circumstance. I was like, I thought I had it bad. I didn't have it anywhere near as bad as they did. Oh, man. So I've kind of gone through a little bit of it myself.
That's good.
I already have a question. Do you have a lot of siblings, or were you like an only child, or do you have a lot of siblings?
I have 3 siblings. I'm the youngest of 4. So I've got 2 brothers and 1 sister.
It's always interesting to me because I feel like a lot of times some of the families that I know that were in IFB, like from kindergarten all the way through college like that, they're huge families. So that's still a pretty good sized family.
Yeah. And it was very much me being the youngest. It was very much following the next person's footsteps. I think half the reason I went to the college I went to was because all the rest of my siblings did. And that's where I ended up. Plus, my brother was already there. He was there. My freshman year was his senior year, so it just seemed so natural to do that.
But I wanted to. This has really nothing to do with a lot of topic here, but you mentioned the Stephen King's It joke before, and we're not quite weird enough to be actual Stephen King characters, like. As
Speak
far
for
as
yourself,
I know,
friend.
Well, I was gonna say, as far as I know, none of us are alcoholic writers. As far as I know, like maybe one or the other, but we're not. None of us are both. Say what, Kai?
No,
I was joking. I said, "Have you met Kayla?"
Damn!
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
No, she was nodding her head yes. She was nodding her head yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not calling her out or making fun of her. She said it.
Well,
yeah,
also,
no, I'm just kidding. I don't even drink.
So, have you guys read the book the Stephen King's It book and not just seen the movies? Because there's
I've
a
not
very
seen or read either.
oh, okay. Well, the
Can't do scary. I'll cry.
I mean, it's so
Same.
I first watched it as a child in the 90s with the TV, the miniseries, you know, that we all are familiar with. I loved it. And I read the book later on in life. And there's a scene in that book. Okay. It is an infamous scene in the book where the kids, yeah, I know. The kids not only go to the sewer to fight the monster, they also all fuck and have an orgy in the sewer. Like it's like, I know, right? It's like listen, I'm not making it's something
Stephen King.
Right.
It's Stephen King, yeah.
He makes it sexy scary, but weird.
Yeah, but they're 11-year-olds, right? And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And it's like, it's so weird. And Stephen King, I don't think gets nearly enough shit for this. Like, people are like, hey man, what's up with the middle school sex scene you wrote?
It's not the only one of his books that has stuff like that. That's a general theme and some Stephen King, I think.
Kind of weird. And we all kind of let that slide. Yeah, it's odd, but surprisingly, that scene did not make it into either film adaptation. I don't know why. For the life of me,
wonder why they thought that's not.
Yeah, like Steve, can you put it aside for a second, man, and talk about page 119 and what's going on here? That's a pretty odd shit right there. But I don't know. You grew up in California. I remember your sister. How many siblings did you say you had?
I have a sister and two brothers.
Two brothers. Okay, I don't remember the two brothers, but they are older. I think you said.
Yeah. Josh, you might have.
I do remember Josh. I played football with Josh. That's right. I do remember Josh.
TJ.
Yeah. Well, Josh was a pretty quiet guy. Right, Zim? Yeah.
He was I tell you, I wish you would have met my brother Adam because he's a not quiet guy.
Okay.
You would have met Adam if you were at Maranatha. No, Josh was fairly conservative, but yeah, he was. I believe he was the backup middle linebacker. But yeah, he was on the football team.
That's good stuff. But all right, that's cool.
I'm surprised there was a football team. I don't think. Did Bob Jones have a football team, Carl? I don't think so. No, we didn't have a football team.
All right, so we'll go on to Kayla. I think is up next here.
All right, cool. So how did you first get involved in the IFB movement? I think you said you were born into it, right? I mean, your family.
Yes, practically. My earliest memory is actually. I was the one that actually walked up to my mom at a very early age and was like, "Hey, how do you get saved?"
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you know how your parents got into it by chance, or was it just like a generational thing, or how did that kind of go down for your family? Do you know?
Vaguely, a little bit.
I don't ask you to share their story. You can share this if you want. Just an idea. I guess.
Yeah, and vaguely. At least if it was like a race. My mom was ahead of my dad, and then my dad.
That's on trend.
We had a lot of that going around. Yeah, we joke about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was my mom was saved. My dad was.
So I want to ask you one more question, like kind of on top of that. Was it at what point during your adolescence were you like, sorry, I have a kid poking in your like this is different than everybody else or whatever. Well, at what point did you realize that IFB was definitely something unique?
It was pretty early on that this was different, that we were doing something that was different from the rest of the world. And the way they teach you, they let you know, hey, by the way, this is different than everybody else, and there's a reason.
Okay.
The kind of the awkwardness of it really didn't kick in, I think, until college, when you really have that, you're in that world for a very long time, and then you have the opportunity to be out of it, and there's suddenly, for the first time, even though you're in the same country you've always been in your entire life, there's a culture shock. I mean, when you're 18 plus and you're used to a certain thing. Everybody's in a uniform and everything. Even in college, everybody's pants or jean skirts, and like this is the way your world is. And then anytime you venture out of that, it suddenly stuff like the way people just wearing normal clothes, a woman wearing pants, suddenly jumps out to you as a thing. Like, wow, this is different. And always right. That's how the rest of the world works. So that's when I really remember experience.
Okay. Yeah, I like jumped into it like in childhood, my family. So I always wondered like when that happened and what that experience would be like to be like, oh, well, so we're weird. I don't know.
For me it was different just because it was almost at least the way I was raised and taught. It was very insular, very separate from the others, the rest of the world, anticipating rejection. So much of my fundamental upbringing, I wasn't really encouraged to make friends outside of church or outside of my family. So it was pretty isolated.
Yeah. I like the way you put that, anticipating rejection, because that is well said. Yeah, that's what it was a lot like for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine both people kind of have that feeling too. It's like you're too different. No one's going to accept this, and it gave me a perspective that really I've been working on for a while, being open to talking to people. It's really taking a long time because it's so programmed into you. No, they're not going to accept you the way you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was you kind of moved past it real quick, but you said that your mom was ahead of your dad in the whole thing. So we joke a lot about how we would always hear stories at church from like evangelists or preachers that were there, and the stories were remarkably similar. They would say that back when I was 16 and 17, I had a crush on this girl in my school, and I went to talk to her, and she's like, well, you can't go out with me unless you come to church. And so I went to her church, and then she's like, well, we can't date unless you get saved. And so I got saved. I see a whole lot of that about guys, was that what happened with your folks, to your knowledge, or what?
Oh no. I believe, at least, again, I could be completely off. To the best of my memory and recollection, I believe my dad's conversion was his own personal decision. I believe he watched. I think he was watching actually a sermon on TV that really convicted him, and then made a decision at church. It didn't have anything to do with his marriage. Actually, it was his own personal decision.
Okay, that I don't think I've ever heard that before. A TV sermon. I honestly, have you guys? That's my first time. Yeah, that's a new one. That's pretty cool. All right. Just curious about it. So
I've heard of it with like the mega churches and the big churches, like back in the early 2000s. I think that was a pretty big thing.
Yeah,
but maybe before that too. But I remember it being a big thing in the early 2000s.
Yeah. The TV preachers, especially the 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Boy, that was their heyday. Oh man.
They were making bank too. They were raking in money.
And they still are.
To them TV sermons.
Yeah. It's
but now, they have more platforms. They have social media and like live streaming and all that stuff too. So it's not like super isolated just to that.
Oh, I always thought that if there was an evil version of TJ to exist, I would be a TV preacher. I would do it. I would just scam people out of every cent they owned, and it's right there. It's just right. And you see these documentaries and stuff where like these old ladies are giving their last dollar to this guy. This guy with, she's
just like, I'd get him.
Oh my, it's just money just begging to be taken. And I don't know. It just, you see, and so you guys ever see, there was
because your soul is a compelling sales point,
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. You're selling a product that you don't get till after you die. It's perfect. Yeah. Just pay me and you'll get it. But the ones that really bother me the most are like the faith healers. Those are the ones, and they've always bugged me.
Benny Hinn hitting you with his jacket and you fall over. Like, come on, guys.
Come on, man. It's just
Yeah.
there was a.
Have y'all ever been to a tent revival?
Kayla,
Yeah,
come on.
okay,
Yeah, of course we've been doing it.
You want to talk about that?
We've all been.
We should do an episode on just that.
Oh,
Just
Christ.
tent revivals.
I'll listen to
Yes.
that one for sure. Wow.
Yeah, those are fantastic. But there was a documentary I saw. This guy named Peter Popoff. This guy was like before our time. He was like a big TV evangelist, like in the 70s and maybe the 80s. And he would plant people. Well, he wouldn't plant people in the crowd. He would have people fill out like prayer cards. They'd come in and they'd write in their prayer card, you know, my name is Jack Smith and I have spine problems, whatever. And they would turn them in. And his wife would have the prayer cards, and he had like an earpiece in his ear, and so she would just be reading these prayer cards to him while he was preaching. And he's like, God is telling me that there's a man named Jack here who has spinal problems, who went to St. Vincent, and he would just name it word for word. The guy's like, oh my God. Yeah, it's just some dark shit, man. I don't understand how people can do this and sleep at night. I really don't. I genuinely don't. And it's just there's got to be a special place in hell for these folks. I don't know. I just wanted to add that real quick. I don't know who's up next, but I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things. Actually, one of the things that did kind of bug me early on. Actually, brings me to evangelists. Like some of them,
yeah,
very genuine guys, and others were like, "What is going on here? What?" I mean,
they're like right behind youth pastors for real.
Yeah. And by the way,
what's up, Phil, about that?
I didn't have a youth pastor. I
wouldn't know, Sam, but
so
Sam,
what did you say about your youth pastor?
No, I didn't have a youth pastor. Youth pastor. Oh. I'm sorry, I can't add a tally to that one. I know there's a running score on this show.
TJ.
Pastors to no creepy youth pastors. Unfortunately, mine is a 0-0.
I love that, Sam.
I do want to add real quick that's an excellent point, Sam, about how it was real feast or famine when it came to evangelists too. I didn't think about that till you just brought it up, because most of the evangelists I met, I found very entertaining. That's like it's like you need to be a more entertaining traveling version of a pastor, you know, and you have like your 5 or 6 sermons ready to go, and you revive the crowd and the revivals and everything. So they're always a bit charismatic and everything, but I personally found them fun to listen to. But man, some of them were incredibly off-putting, and like you can't have that mix of someone who is a natural born demagogue. I mean, I know the type, but and also be, you know, really weird. So it was always one extreme or the other with evangelists. That's a good point.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, the arrogance was one thing. The other thing was sometimes they preach, sometimes they just tell you a series of stories and then the service would end. It was like, what is the point of this? I don't understand why we all gathered to hear these stories. And then there were the evangelists that made you doubt your salvation.
They were the worst.
Every time, because they wanted you to come forward and do the whole thing.
But did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do it in this order? And that freaked me out as an 18-year-old. I remember that, thinking, oh no.
I remember that as well. Like, I got saved, like, I think a few times during, like, my teen years, because I had those experiences too. Every time I was like, whoa, I didn't think about it like that. I got to do this one more time. I got to try this again.
Especially youth conferences too. They would do them.
Yeah.
Not just like revivals, but like, do you guys remember like the really scary plays they would do that were like school shootings or like airplanes crashing, and then you like are in hell and it's like, wait, what?
Yes,
like,
dude.
Very over the top.
Well, because then they would like regurgitate the number of souls saved, almost like it used to remind me of like car salesmen. Like, we sold this many cars, come to Toyota, but it was like, we saved this many teens, and it was a lot.
Yeah. I remember. I think it was at Maranatha. We heard a guy say, like every 10 seconds, there's someone falling into hell. I was like, is there a webcam? How do you know? Where are you getting
your numbers from?
Can I see the stats on that? It was like tally with it. Yeah.
That can't be right. Yeah. It's just, there's certain personalities that are like, I don't know what you're doing up there. Like, some of them should be car salesman.
Yeah. So it's
You
very
really
much like
get
that.
it.
Yeah.
All right. I think you have to unmute Carla for. Yeah.
There
Yay.
she is.
Hey, friend.
I'm gonna piggyback off of the next two things I'm gonna ask you, but first, what was your experience at Maranatha while attending, and would you recommend it to anyone else today?
Did I recommend? My experience was that's one actually because I appreciated the my experience with Maranatha. That's where I kind of ran up against the inconsistency of kind of the mixed messages between we are preparing you to be an adult, but we're going to treat you like a child. This is what you're going to need to know for everything, but you cannot do anything without our approval. We want you to get married, but don't you dare touch anyone of the opposite sex.
Oh goodness, yeah.
It was very confusing and very paternalistic. And that's kind of what opened my eyes to kind of the fundamental movement of how kind of short-sighted it was, kind of small-minded, and very paternalistic of just treating adults like they were children and being okay with it. And not, I remember thinking this many times, why can't I have the benefit of the doubt? Like ever. Like in any situation. It's gotta be under these conditions, under this way you've got to supervise. Like this, I know this has come up on your show before, but the idea of people going out on a date and being chaperoned, that's
Weird. It's just weird.
And do you want this to succeed? Do you want people to develop any type of chemistry? I was impressed that PCC had a free meal part of it.
And it's hard enough to like get honest with somebody, just one other person. Can you imagine like getting as vulnerable and honest as you need to marry someone with like a teacher in the room, a youth pastor or evangelist in the room? Come on.
Exactly. And that's kind of the problem. I mean, dating in itself is nerve-wracking, one-on-one. Having you be observed like it's a case study is just, you're not only trying to connect with somebody, you're also like, I also don't want to get kicked out of college and ruin my life.
Yeah.
So that
I was just gonna say too, like it was like that at Bob Jones too. It was almost like we were on a fast course up to like adulthood. We went from 0 to like you must be an adult in all these areas, but then we had so many different just mixed messages too, and even being like feeling like it was my wild time, like it was still just like that, just so many mixed messages. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird thing. Like the bridge to adulthood, it has training wheels on it. It's so odd that by the end of it, you're expecting them to be an adult. You're expecting them to be, get a ring before spring, be married when you're 22, and you haven't done anything that an adult would do. You haven't exercised that mental muscle to make a decision on your own.
Yeah.
And that is what disturbed me of, okay, that mindset of, okay, yeah, we're making adult, when what you're really making is, if we're going to keep with the swimming analogy, is like the worst Olympic team ever. If you just, you've got the flippers on and the floaties and everything, and then, it's every 4 years. So then they send you off to the Olympics, and you don't have the muscle strength for any of that.
Yep.
And just alone adulthood. Imagine if you're married and you haven't made a decision on your own ever, and you and another person who's never been an adult before, you just graduated from college.
Or in a lot of cases for a lot of like young women or even young men too, you get into marriage and you don't know the other person, and it's like a dangerous person, or because you weren't even given the opportunity to really like know for yourself honestly who the other person was. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you though.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right, because in the process, so frequently, families are involved. You're always being, there's not a lot of one-on-one time because of this approved process of being observed, and that's not what a relationship is. That's not what a marriage is. That's what not real life is. So so it's really unfair to the couple involved who they think is going through this process.
Yeah, that part always hurts me too. That they think it's normal.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah, that's hard to observe.
Yeah. So that's what when I see people getting married right out of college, that freaks me out. Like that's like
In high school too. Sometimes
that just it really frightens me. It's like, oh no, those two baby deers don't know anything.
Yeah.
It's just sad. Would I recommend it? I would recommend it if it's somebody who has to go to a Christian college. If you are in a family and you're like, okay, they're making you go to one of the big four, I would say Maranatha, based off of my own experiences. As I said, not the greatest, but however, from what I've heard from other colleges, Maranatha was actually much better. Just referring again to Justin's last episode, I'd heard stories about the streets being divided up between pink and blue. I thought, yeah.
I was gonna piggyback off of that and ask what you thought of other Christian schools.
I really, aside from the horror stories, I really wasn't exposed to the other schools. I visited Bob Jones once, and that was the other thing. It seemed like too big for me, and also it seemed kind of, I don't know, stuffy. Like it was like the American version of Downton Abbey. It all seemed very formal and very and this is the way we do it here at Bob Jones University. Here we have this is the fancy Christians go here.
It's a really good analogy. The Downtown Abbey thing. That's how it felt. Yeah. It was like.
Yeah, I'm sure everything had to be just right. I mean, in Christian circles, normally you have to be just right. But I got the feeling at Bob Jones, it was easy.
Yeah.
It's a bit much, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was only there for like a day or two, and I was like, no, thank you.
It's truly kind of a little world, honestly.
Right, it's huge. It's like its own country. It has its own.
Yeah, and as soon as you drive past those gates and you exit, it's like, oh.
Yeah,
it's
good.
Difference.
Yeah, but but the shame of it was, for the most of my college experience, a lot of people call it like the best time of their life, even though nothing terrible happened to me. It was one of the hardest times in my life, and part of that is, okay, I get it. You're 18, and there's the lessons you got to learn in life. But also, it was just walking that tightrope between trying to get good grades and also don't get kicked out. You got to be a perfect student and a perfect person, and
get married.
Yes, and you got to
get ready.
Yes. Yeah, all that. Yeah, get married, but don't you dare look at any of those women. Get married. Get married, but don't be found alone with them. Like, am I supposed to send away for one? I don't understand. So, yeah. It wasn't. People say their college time is the best time of their life. It really wasn't for me. I made some friends. I appreciate that, and some friends that I still know to today. But education-wise, I wish I'd gone, somewhere maybe Logan, and gotten basically the same education.
Education-wise, I don't think I was terribly disappointed with Maranatha education. I thought it was all right. It wasn't bad. Like a lot of times, people go to these like diploma mill Christian schools, and Maranatha was not that. Like the education was fairly rigorous. I wanted to point out a couple of things you mentioned. I have not heard the phrase "ring before spring" in 1,000 years. When you said that, I was like, "Oh yeah, that was an actual thing." Like it wasn't just a phrase; it was like an event or something.
They're like, yup.
I can't remember what it was though. Like, do you remember?
I remember.
You said they have a ring before you graduated. Like if you were engaged before
No, but
graduation.
it was like an event. It was like an actual thing. Like
I remember there being. This was a Maranatha thing.
Maranatha thing. Yeah.
there was a series of videos. It was like a reality show, and I think
What?
Stop it right now.
Yeah,
Are you
it was a
serious?
reality show, and there was this mystery girl, and then there's these series of guys. So it was like a bachelorette thing, but instead it was like right before spring.
Oh,
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, I can see why I didn't watch that. Okay, yeah, I would have no interest in that whatsoever. Yeah, but I could, because I thought it was a clever name. I remember, again, I'm a sucker for clever rhymes and stuff like that, but I couldn't remember exactly what the event was. So this was kind of, I mean, a lot of schools do this, but at Maranatha we had. We would do these student body videos all the time. And I remember I had this idea. I had this idea for a sketch. And the sketch was about these senior guys who were hitting on freshman girls, because it just happened all the time. Yeah, every day you saw it, over and over again. And so the idea I had was for a product called Senior Off, which was like, you remember Sam? And so, like Off the bug spray, but it was for seniors.
I would have bought that. I would have 100% bought that. I would have came to that booth.
and I came up with this idea like my freshman year. And then somewhere like my junior year or something, Justin Fain, actually, it goes back to Justin. Justin came to me and he's like, hey, would you want to like make a student body video for us? I was like, hell yeah, I would. And so me and Josh McCarthy, we got together. And so I wrote like 4 sketches for this. And one of them was Senior Off, where, these senior guys that walk into the freshman girls. And I had like this, aerosol can that I had printed a piece of paper that said Senior Off on it. And they would spray the boys with the Senior Off and get them to go away. And Carthy and I spent like an entire day and a half, like filming these sketches or whatever and writing them and everything. And I just remember being really nervous when they played it to the student body, because we had stayed up all night and we had like 8 people editing it and everything. And I just remember sitting there and I was just so fucking scared. And they played it, not a dry eye in the house. Like people were laughing their asses off. It was one of the best moments I've ever had in my life. But I don't know why did I bring that up. I don't know where we came to that. I don't remember what that had to do with what we were talking. Oh, that's right. Ring before spring. Yeah. So that's right. We would do these things a lot at Maranatha. And so, yeah, I just never bothered watching that one. And Sam, you talked about how you always had to worry about, getting in trouble and getting kicked out and everything. And look, Sam and I, we can tell you only the dumb people got kicked out. Like the people who were smart, they knew, where their left and right limits were. They knew what they could get away with. They knew people who could get them out of trouble. And, but I was going to bring this up. So I don't think I've talked about this on the show to everyone else yet, but there was this one year at Maranatha that was like this reign of terror. And Sam, I'm pretty sure you remember this. But do you remember when all those guys got kicked out for porn at Maranatha that one year? Do you remember? We had we had a like impromptu meeting of all the guys on campus. I just remember it was like 10 p.m. and they said we need all the boys to come to the gym. And so we all went down to the gym. And Sam, were you here that year? Do you remember that?
I think so. I don't remember I don't think I remember the great porn version.
You may not have been there that year then, because there's no way you forgot this. But they brought all the boys to the dorm. I mean, all the boys to the gym, and they said, "Listen, we've already expelled like 3 people for watching pornography like this month or something." And we're, bringing you guys together because we had a school intranet, and so they could check your browser history if they so chose, or they flagged it, and guys were getting reckless with it and getting caught. But I just remember that night was so funny because they said, and we've already got 2 more that we will be removing this week, but they didn't say who it was. So everyone in the gym was like, man, if it's you, and so they're good. No, they're all saying their goodbyes and everything. Like no one knows who's getting kicked. It's so funny. It's one of the funniest moments that I remember all throughout Maranatha. But what got me was stuff like that, because people got kicked out for, pornography, going to movie theaters, and you got like they're like drinking alcohol. Some were like automatic expulsions or whatever. But it was always funny to me that a lot of the guys who we would consider good guys, you know, they were like, you know, honestly decent people. I may or may not have liked them, but they weren't troublemakers. They weren't hurting anybody. But, oh my God, they found out he watched porn. Now you're kicked out of college in your first semester of your senior year. Like, you're derailing people's entire lives off this shit. And it was always funny to me because it was like the shit bags, like the guys who like probably weren't even saved. They were just forced to go there, were smart enough to get away with it, and they kind of got through. And so the goody two shoes got kicked out.
Their first rodeo.
Exactly. Yeah, they're setting them up for failure. So, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I found ironic, that it punished the people who were most bought into it more often than not.
I know of at least one person I could think of that.
You're probably thinking the same one I am. I already know. You're probably thinking the exact same one I am.
Okay. That's a shame. It's pretty dumb to do anything questionable on your college's intranet. Like, what do you think?
That part. I remember immediately downloading something at Bob Jones. I was like, okay.
And the dating thing too, I just wanted to cover that too, because I remember one time I asked a girl on a date, and it was a first date. This is a rookie mistake. This is a very young TJ. I was like 20, 21. And I asked her on a first date, and it was a movie. Fellas, never ever pick a first date as a movie. It's horrible idea. And so I didn't know any better at the time, but I remember asking her to this movie, which was against the rules too. I just thought about that. It was against the rules or whatever. I just thought about that, but it doesn't matter. But we did need a chaperone to leave. Like, I couldn't leave with her, you know, which I don't know why I didn't just, you know, meet up. But I had to bring a chaperone. And I just remember it was the most awkward thing I'd ever done, because I was like, this is just so weird. And of course, you know, it was a movie first date. So of course it didn't go well. And there's 3 of us there. And I was like, okay, so what are we talking? It's just, it's so fucking awful. I will say, though, it is better than whatever the hell they had going on in Pensacola, where you had to take a staff member. At least we didn't have that. So it could have been worse, I guess. I had no idea until Justin told us about that. But yeah, wild times. I don't know, Maranatha.
Yeah. I'd on the rare occasion that I went on a date, it was weird to have another person there, and I was like, of course it didn't work out. Of course not. I'm glad I didn't have to buy them dinner. At least the upside was, at least with Maranatha, if you just got your friend to be your chaperone, at least it was less weird.
Yeah.
Couldn't we do that at Bob Jones, Carla? I think that we could take friends. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But it was still weird.
Still weird.
Yeah.
It was also weird. It was also weird being the chaperone, because I'd done that. I think at some point, when I was a senior, I'd had whatever title that you need to be a chaperone. Voted least likely to do anything bad. So I had that whatever status. So I accompanied other people all day. I guess I had an awkward time.
Did you get paid? That was volunteer service.
It was volunteer service. Volunteer service. Yep.
That was just.
I'd be like, do I get dinner? Do I get to play pinball? Like, what's in it for me, friends?
It was, you know what the upside was? Having an excuse to leave the college.
Yeah, true.
Yay, yeah.
It's a reason to leave. I'll do it. What are we doing? We're going to Applebee's? Great. We're going to mini golf? Fine. I'll do it. Are we bowling? Awesome. It was without any excuse. It was a weird time in my life where going to Walmart was like a great thing, because it was just any excuse to get away from the dorm and from school and from campus was like, okay, great. Awesome.
Sam, do you remember? I don't know if you other 3 ever saw this, because I think Maranatha and Wisconsin was the only place I ever saw this. But do you remember like the women who would walk around Walmart? Sam, do you remember that? There would be these women who would you could tell they were, fundy women because they had like
Fundy.
long sleeve shirts and jean skirts that went to the floor. They're the only people who wore that shit. And it'd be like moms and daughters. And to exercise, they would walk around the interior of Walmart. Did you ever see that, Sam?
No.
Oh.
Oddly enough, the only odd thing I saw was one of our teachers working at Walmart, which kind of gave me an indication of how well they were paid.
Yeah.
But no, I don't remember.
That had to be hard to go back and forth from your job at Walmart to being a teacher, an IFB teacher.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to imagine like switching gears for that, like switching mindsets.
Yeah.
Not much.
I mean, hey, work is work, but it's definitely more of a condemnation on the school than the person.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't see any fundamental ladies orbiting the
Oh man, we would make fun of them all the time. And I wanted to. Come on, walk outside anyway. But another thing I want to add. One last thing about the chaperones. So I remember my freshman year. There was another guy on the football team, and he wanted to take his girlfriend to his house, like where his parents and everything, and he couldn't just drive her up by himself. So he asked me if I would accompany them, and I did because I thought his sister was hot, and I knew she would be there. And so I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I went there, and his dad was a pastor, and I get there, and there's like his sister, and him and his girlfriend and his parents, and there's this other dude there, this grown man. And I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And it's like, "Oh, well, that's Dan." It's not his name, but I was like, "That's Dan, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, well, who is he?" He's like, "Well, Dan was arrested for. He's not a family member, but he was arrested for being the getaway driver in like a gas station robbery or something like that. And he served a little bit of time." And he got out, and now he just stays here. Dad said that the dude was like 30, and he just stays here. And I had the same look you had, Sam, because I was like, what? I was like, you got admittedly smoking hot 19-year-old daughter here, and you're just letting this fucking ex-con hang out at your house indefinitely. My mind was shattered when I saw this shit. To this day, it's one of the weirdest, because he was just there, and we went to. This is weird. Like, I think we went to a symphony. It's weird. I don't know why that happened, but I think we went to a symphony. And I remember talking to this dude, and he tried to like make this bet with me. And he's like, "Yeah, so you drink milk?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I drink milk."
That's
a weird question, right?
That's a bad start to any
horrible start. And then he's like,
first of all.
Yeah, he's like, so, would you want to like make like a bet or something that, you could drink, you can't drink a whole gallon of milk, without forfeiting. I was like, man, I know this trick. You can't drink a gallon of milk. He's like, oh, okay. It's like, I'm not an idiot. Like, who do you think I am? You? I'm not going to fall for something that's stupid, but it's just, I don't know. Like, it was just so weird to me that to this day, I don't know what's up with that this guy let this like fucking fully grown man like out of prison, hang out at his house and just live in one of the rooms with his daughter there. I don't know. It's just like, it was just so wild.
Probably something icky. It's probably something weird.
It had to have been weird, right?
Like as it sounds.
Oh God. Yeah. I never asked any more questions about that. And I never went back. And it was just like, that whole thing was just odd. I still think about it every now and then. I don't know where that girl is now. I have no clue. I have no clue. Yeah, I know. I've never seen her on social media or anything like that. But I was like, oh, that is so fucking weird. But yeah, that was my weirdest chaperone story. I don't know about you guys, but sorry, go ahead.
Wow. No, I don't have anything to beat that. Wow. No. Even if the guy has a clean record, what's a 30-year-old doing with a 19-year-old?
Yeah, right. Not happening. Yeah. Not happening, man.
At all.
Yeah. But I feel like there's a culture of fixing people in the IFB. Like, I feel like there's like a culture of like collecting like broken humans and being like, oh,
again,
you can say that's how you get on your feet. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Reformers Unanimous. That's a whole other can of worms. But like, I mean, that's kind of like case in point, right? Like, I wish I could say I was surprised by this, but like, I'm literally not surprised in any capacity. Like,
wow.
I mean, you know what I mean though? Like, and I don't mean that in like a shitty way. I just mean like, I feel like it's a trend. Like, I feel like it's a.
I agree.
Oh, well, you need a place to
I
go.
remember
We
a
can take
lot
you
of
in.
people
Like,
taking people in like that.
I mean, I don't know, just my. But I think going back real quick, one thing you said about dating that I hadn't thought of until hearing you talk about like dating and like courting and that kind of stuff. How obviously we know dating within the IFB is really toxic, but what I hadn't considered is like I feel like they push you like to marry the first person that you like date or court, and like you were literally setting up like men and women alike for failure because you're not able to see what red flags are. Like someone could be really shitty to you and you're gonna think it's completely normal, or if they're violent towards you, that like that's normal because you don't have this experience of dating like a variety of people. It's just one and done.
Yeah. Or if you're carrying something out of your adolescence and seeking something toxic, which so many young people do, there's no opportunity to learn a normal life lesson in an organic, healthy manner, because that's it. That's what everyone around you is going to encourage you to I can't imagine being with anybody that I dated in high school. What?
No.
I don't think any of us would want to be.
Or college. No. Oh no.
Yeah, that was something. But
it does work out for some people. I don't mean to offend anyone. Like there's always the exceptions, and it's usually really cute, but sometimes it's a little sketchy.
Right. But the thing is it that mindset of marrying the first person you date. So if it doesn't work out, and it frequently doesn't, you feel devastated. Like I dated somebody for a brief period of time, and it was the first time in my life I dated anybody, and it was devastating. It was nothing. It happens. Breakups happen, but because I was in that mindset, in that world, like this is the path on. No, relationships don't always work out.
And it was like earth shattering, huh?
It was devastating. It took me a while to recover from that, just because it was the first time I've ever experienced that in a relationship. And the first time I had an opportunity to have a relationship.
And also, there's no education in IFB about how to like accept no from somebody else. Like there was no teaching you how to like gracefully or like realistically accept if somebody didn't reciprocate feelings like that. That was a whole other thing as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'd be doing that.
But no, you're exactly right. And from the guy's end of it, we had no idea of how we were supposed to operate. We were told what not to do. We weren't told what we were supposed to do.
Right.
We were too busy being warned about, don't get anybody pregnant. Except for once you get married, then get totally pregnant. We won't tell you. But it was just, and that's another incongruent thing that that environment had for you. It was for the majority of your life, sex was this terrible thing, and then get married, and then flip that switch
instantly.
Yes, and if you don't have kids, then maybe there's something wrong.
What you been doing? Like it's been 9 months. Come on.
Not even if you don't have kids.
What do you even do?
You don't get married, something's wrong with you.
Yes, that's if you were in your late 20s, if you were in your late 20s or in your 30s and you weren't married, especially if you were a woman, and there was a stigma there, like and then the creepy thing that I saw happen more than once, people would get set up. Just these random dudes would show up, and then a few months later they would be engaged to somebody who worked at my church.
That's so scary.
Yeah,
and that's such a real thing.
Yeah.
Yo. All right.
I was curious. First, you can't be the only one that's observed this.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I think you're right.
You're not.
At all.
Yeah.
Well, I think it screws with people for forever. Like, even if they leave the church or leave the IFB and then they're not married, or they're like their life doesn't look like they thought it would by that age, I think that it still fucks with them, and they're like, oh no,
I'm a conspiracy theorist too. I'm like, what? Like, where did this guy come from, or what's the deal with that? I remember so many.
Kayla and her conspiracy.
I love it. I love it.
I love her. We love you so much.
So first, 2 quick notes, real quick, is that I could do an entire episode on what you said, Sam, about how I love the way you put it that boys are taught what not to do when it comes to interacting with women. A lot of that advice is horrible too. Like actually a lot of that's not that great. But you're never taught exactly what to do. And that is one of the things that I resented the most, coming into adulthood, because I had no fucking clue. I had no idea. I got to figure it out on your own. And I blame the movement too, but I also blame my dad. I blame my dad in a lot of ways because, look, I know that everyone loves my dad. I do too. He's a fantastic guy and everything. But
we started.
I know.
We started whatever
we
this is.
still love your dad, but we still recognize he has lots of flaws.
And we validate
He's
whatever
kind.
your experience was.
And he made our
TJ.
Sundays.
Sorry.
He used to carry candy in his coat pocket.
He did.
He was
That's
always
right. He
very
did.
nice, and he wasn't a creepy old man in church.
I didn't
He was
ever
always
fear that he was going to
funny.
nab me. That's all we were saying.
Yeah.
He had lots of flaws, but
I just don't like that everyone says he's funny, and he's not. I love that he's not. My dad's not funny.
TJ's personal bone would be that, like we said, funny, because that's TJ's thing. You're funnier than your dad ever was, TJ. I just want you to know that.
No.
Okay?
This isn't. No. Don't take this the wrong way. This isn't me like I'm funnier than dad. No. Dad is not funny. Like that is not the thing here. I was like, Dad. So my dad.
I thought he was Stephanie.
Me too.
Look, my dad has the sense of humor of like a 9-year-old. Like that's what it is. Like if like fine, there's just no sophistication to dad's humor, and I don't respect it. And so that's why I say that with my dad. But
Is it definitely a different type of
blame
humor
your
coming out
dad
of
for
the two of
dating.
you?
Oh, thank you, Kai. Yeah. So, all right, now I'll show you guys a picture of my dad back in the 70s or whatever. My dad was a notorious Lothario. Like there have been all sorts of allegations of, secret siblings I might have had from like dad's. Yeah, so like dad got around. Like dad knew like how to talk to women.
Whitehead.
Oh my! Come on, does that surprise you? Really?
Yeah.
Are you really surprised
It
by
surprises
this?
me too. Well, we knew him like by the time he was like settled into your life, like or into the IFB life. So it surprises me.
So, so dad is a natural flirt. Like that's just how he is. And so you guys would know that as children, maybe you didn't know, but like seeing him all the time, like dad is a natural flirt.
Children, so.
Yeah, exactly. You guys would have noticed that. But anyway, so dad knew like he could have taught me how to talk to women, and he didn't. I get why he didn't, because he didn't want his sons to grow up to be womanizers like he was. I kind of get that, but he just didn't teach me anything, and so I kind of hold that against him, or whatever. But the other thing, what the other thing you mentioned too, the setup thing, Sam. So you guys brought that up. I never caught on to that, but now that you say it, how people like mysterious dudes would just be brought into the church out of nowhere, and then it's like, oh, how about you start talking to this young lady here? Next thing you know, they were married. That happened more than a couple of times.
I think it was men that stumbled into the churches, honestly, and like, what better way to like compel someone that's like maybe single and struggling through life to stay in a cult or a community than to rope them into some kind of romantic situation.
Yeah,
so,
I never caught on to that. So you guys just said that, because that would happen. Guys just show up out of nowhere, and next thing you know, they're wifed up a year later to someone 10 years younger than them. Maybe like 30 and 20, or I think we all know who we're talking about.
Stumbling in to a gas station and finding the winning lottery for some of these weirdos. It's like the perfect situation, and there's, I don't think it's coincidental at all. Yeah.
Well, I guess it leads me to a question I had, because there's so many red flags, I feel like, within the IFB, right? When did you first start? You talked a little bit about, I think, seeing inconsistencies when you got to college, I think, maybe. But, like, were there any, like, things that you started seeing as red flags? And, like, when did you, like, kind of start seeing them?
The first time was, the things that I caught on really was college, when I got there and realized, wow, no one wants to be here. Wow. And yeah, just like I talked about before, just the paternalistic nature of it. And it just, that really rubbed me the wrong way. So that was really the first red flag. And, but there were other weird, looking back, I with the brain I have now, there are some regular things in practice that I see as like very weird things, like altar calls. That stuff was a regular thing, and that was just weird. That was just making public declarations and coming forward through, okay, we're going to have Just As I Am play one more time till we have some people come forward. And it was.
Would y'all do like the hand thing where everyone would like put their hand, like people would crowd around one person and everyone would put their hand in during altar calls? They would keep playing music and we would all like pray over that person and they would share intimate stuff. Did y'all ever have that experience? That's what comes to mind as you describe this too. I know like regular altar calls, but we would also have like weird prayer calls, stuff like that too. Am I the only one?
Every now and then I saw that. That wasn't common. That wasn't common.
It was.
But yeah.
It was by the time I got into, I don't know about Bob Jones, but definitely like in some of my later IFB ones. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's what I just wanted to know if you saw that.
That I didn't experience, but a lot of long altar calls. Like it wasn't just one person done. Like it was, especially at evangelistic meetings, but sometimes just a regular church service. Somebody's going to make a decision today. And it was just like, it just was this, you could just feel the temperature in the room getting hotter and this intense thing. It was like, this doesn't, and looking back on it, like, that's not natural. That's not right. That's not a person.
That was weird.
That's not a person making a decision. That's a person being kind of pushed into something. That's not the Holy Spirit. That might be manipulation. So there was that. The other thing that jumped out to me was the practice of corporal punishment. Looking back, that I found to be a very weird thing. Especially somebody not in my family. If I had like a teacher, or I had like a pastor who would be authorized to spank me if I, broke a certain number of rules. Mm-hmm. That's just weird. I think it's weird when family does it to each other. But I think that looking back on it, that might be abuse. But even weirder when it's somebody not related to. Actually, it's weird enough that someone who says that they love you does that to you. But someone who's like just your pastor, because you broke a rule, is going to send some lightning.
It's just sick. It's like gross. Like, what other reason could there be other than like exerting some kind of like sick power over children? There's no other that I can think of. Sorry.
Right.
But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and that looking back on it was a regular thing. They would joke about having a battle.
Yeah,
that's weird.
They loved their jokes about spanking kids, didn't they, folks? They loved it. They couldn't get enough
all day long.
Oh,
and they were proud of it.
Proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They talk about how patriotic they were because the stars and stripes for they got on their kids and everything. Like,
yeah, I think I told you guys about that we had a pastor one time and he literally, it was like around 4th of July, I think. Maybe it was Memorial. No, I think it was 4th of July. And he literally had a sermon and it was talking about like red, white, and bruised and how he
God,
see the stars.
Jesus. Yeah, it's gross. I heard that. I want to add real quick before we move on, before I forget, something I want to talk about what Kayla said about the laying on hands at the altar calls, which I rarely saw those. Most of it was just regular, like drawn out altar calls, where they're playing, like Just As I Am or whatever. There's power in the blood. You're just kind of waiting.
Verse 12. Here we go. Nobody wrote.
Yeah, I know. No one's come down. So, and then someone's like,
it was like a very constant thing I saw at the Haven. Now that I'm thinking about it, we'll have to talk to Stacy about that.
Yeah, and so the ones that interested me the most were the ones where it was like really serious, where you had the prayer meetings and it was about a particular thing, and every now and again, someone would be like really sick or something. And then they would do the praying with the laying on hands. And that's what I remember people like getting in a circle and like touching your shoulder. And then they would like pray around. And they would also go to the Bible verse that said to anoint them with oil. And I remember that happening a couple times at the church. The church we went to, Sam, by the way, in Missouri was also called Maranatha. So I'll make it confusing. But at the Maranatha church, I remember, I don't know who it was, but Pastor Carnahan anointed someone with oil. And I still remember him holding like the bottle of like Aldi's extra virgin olive oil. Like like anointed them. It was just so funny to see something like that because I was like, I mean, I guess that's what the Bible says, but I always imagined it like in an Aladdin lamp or something when you anointed someone with oil, but not from this plastic bottle you got from the Albertsons down the road. It was just very funny to see that. I was like, oh, that may have been one of the first times like this is goddamn ridiculous. What is going on here? But I just wanted to throw that out there that there were some odd moments like that with prayer meetings.
Oh man, yeah. The other odd thing was, like baptisms. I just feel bad for the poor soul that just got baptized and then had to walk around being all wet for a while. They try to dry off, but come on.
I remember being so scared. I got baptized when I was 17, at a revival associated with the Haven, and I remember in the moment, like I could have screamed and ran out because I was just like, I'm really gonna let this man dunk me, and like he was holding my face, and I don't know if anyone else had that experience, but I remember I'm so comfortable in water. I'm a scuba diver, but I was like, oh no, this is about to be it. This is really the biggest test of my faith ever. Then I don't think it's supposed to be like that. I think it's supposed to be terrifying.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a little funny.
I'll
move on to question number 5. So what were the circumstances then in which you left? Like what finally kind of pushed you forward and how?
Okay, well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Too late.
I probably do stuff. Guys, what I do.
No, I think Kai had another one. So
I'm so sorry, Kai.
No, you're fine. It's okay.
Forget that
Listen,
question.
I'm just rolling. I'm just, like I said, I'm just vibing. I'm just here for a while.
Yeah, roll it on out, man.
I was going to say, Kayla's the only one rolling here, probably. But,
Kayla's always on a roll. And that's why we need her because, no, I was just going to ask you, we were talking a little bit before the show about how you're still a Christian and I am too and stuff like that. And I think I've mentioned before on here that like everyone's deconstruction journeys look so different. And I think the IFB is so brainwashed, like so much is taught to be normal that's not. So how did you kind of come to terms with like what Christianity looks like for you now? And then I guess what advice would you have for someone on top of that like if they were wanting to leave the IFB, but like they're going through their own faith journey or they're figuring out like what's real for them and what do they believe, like what advice would you have for them that you would tell yourself if you were doing it all over again?
That's a great question, Kai.
That is a good question. Let's see if I could tell myself to do it over again. I think I would emphasize the importance of faith being a personal thing and that what you're doing is serving God. I think so much of the independent fundamental Baptist movement and circles I'm familiar with, so much of the religion and service, you are doing things to impress other people. You're doing it to make sure that your family thinks that you're a good Christian. You're doing it so that you don't let the church down. You're doing it so that you don't get kicked out of college. When what you should actually be doing it is ultimately out of your relationship with God. And when you do it that way, there isn't that anxiety. There's only an audience of one. Unfortunately, with the fundamental crowds that I'm familiar with, you don't have boundaries. That was the other thing that bugged me was there was no you time, there was no you anything. Your business was everybody. Your business was everybody's business. There was no such thing as a personal life. So I think emphasizing your personal relationship with God as yours, and not you pleasing the church, you pleasing God through the church, you pleasing God through a creepy youth pastor, is not a way to live. So that's what
How did you kind of like come to terms with the fact that you were still a Christian after like seeing toxic religion for so long? Like, how did you kind of figure out what worked for you as far as what you believed and stuff like that? Was it just like, oh, I'm still a Christian, I just don't think this matches the Bible, or was there something specific, or what kind of?
I choose to believe in a God whose door to heaven is bigger than we say and wider than the fundamentalist church says that it is. If I believe in a God that died for the entire world, he loves the entire world. That means everybody in it. That means everyone. And that's why I have a problem with street preachers. That's why I have a problem with people who hold up signs that say, God hates gay people. I really want to walk up to one of them and go, has anyone ever come over to you and, just thrown their stuff away and go, you've convinced me, you're right. I doubt that's happened anytime. But you know what I'm sure has happened many times is you push people away from God. You push people further away from the church. You push people further away from organized religion, from the Bible, of having any chance of having a relationship with God. You're actually being a hindrance. So what I've believed to actually be a better way of going about it is actually just developing relationships with people, not forcing it. I think going door to door, again, you're forcing it. The most effective way of persuading people is actually having a genuine connection with them and actually caring about them. Jesus knew his disciples on an individual basis. That's why they followed him. And I think the same way, if you actually want to persuade someone to do what you believe is the right thing, it's not to cram it down their throat. It's not to scare them with hell. It's to simply, as I've heard the phrase before, be the only Bible they may ever read. Be the representation of the positiveness that should be Christianity, the love that Jesus has for them, to be that exception to the rule, but not be angry about it. So that's how I have my Christianity.
Like that not angry
Very
part
cool.
was really an important rule.
Right. Because so much of independent fundamental Baptist circles is the world is coming to get us, guys. The world is coming to get us, which then brings me to, I don't really want to get into what caused me to leave, because that involves too much of my personal life and people that I care about. But what I can tell you about is the biggest red flag, the one that really made me disappointed with the older generation. And my apologies for making this political, but it was in 2016.
Do it.
We very rarely ever avoid politics here. Go on.
To see people who told me to contend for the faith, to see people who emphasized all these things about purity culture, about doing the right thing, about how you should conduct yourself, how you should talk, and then their complete endorsement of Donald Trump. That was one of the big ones. That was just like, this is disappointing. To have people I've respected my whole life say, now this is what we have to do in order to fight abortion. I'm sorry, we have to
really, really.
We have to support a guy who we know has violated all 10 commandments in order to do this one thing that we actually don't need to do. It's just incredible that 8 years later, that's still happening in most fundamental circles, I'm probably fairly certain.
I just wanted two things real quick. First, Carla, you can jump in too. I didn't mean to when I said Carla, I was muting you. Yeah, I didn't mean I'm muting you the whole show. It's like just when you're not.
I miss you.
Say what?
Just chill. Is it quiet now, or is it still like making a weird?
No, it's still there. But
it's not that bad though. We can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
we love you for you.
Yeah, like when you just weren't talking, I was muting it. That's all I meant. So if you want to jump in,
I'm soaking it all in.
I literally texted her and I was like, "You can unmute yourself."
Yeah, you can unmute yourself. I didn't make Sam thinks I'm some sort of despot over here. Carla doesn't get to talk. That's how I meant.
Yeah, Carla, great to meet you.
Yeah, so I'll be a good boy. I'm not going to get too deep into politics with this one. Although I do say that not getting into politics isn't a thing that exists, because literally everything is political. It's like, I'm not trying to like be big brain guy
and that's
here,
your
but
passion, TJ.
it
We
is,
support
yeah.
you.
And I mean, religion is political. But anyway, I have said this for a long time that, you know, I grew up conservative too, and that I wasn't conservative by 2016. But if I were, that is when it would have stopped for me too. that is, or at least I wouldn't. I couldn't see myself supporting and voting for Donald Trump. I couldn't see it happening, because like I just like, that is where the line would be drawn for me. And seeing, I will say this, that unlike everyone else here, I kind of am on a crusade against against religion. I openly admit
Lucy's
it.
honest, folks.
Not a
We'll tell you
shock,
what
not a
it
shock.
is.
And so, but I think that the like the independent fundamental movement, or, you know, right wing, like Christian evangelicals, their open embracing of Donald Trump has fucking killed the movement. It's done. It's over. It's just that it showed that they cared more about political power than they did about the teachings of their religion. And that's what it showed.
Yeah.
That's what it was right there.
I very much agree with that.
Yeah, and
I
it's
feel like it gave me like this confidence to like own my own like disdain for it too. Honestly.
Exactly.
Like I really started walking and talking different in 2016 about how I was not Christian.
For decades now, all we've heard is how important this is. You guys remember now, trust me, fuck Bill Clinton. I'm not saying that guy was an upstanding human being, but how much shit they gave Bill Clinton for being a sex pest. Yeah, he was. It's true. But then it turned out, oh, when our guy does it, it's cool. Like, it actually doesn't matter now. And can you imagine?
It almost lost him the election, like everything, because it was so like unheard of that a president would be doing something outside of his marriage. Right? And now here we are, like, we're doing an impeachment. Like,
he almost got removed from office for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say,
it was a scandal that changed our generation.
I know, right? It really did. And how much shit, whatever you believe about Obama's politics, whatever, how much shit Barack Obama got from this cadre. Can you imagine if Barack Hussein Obama had 5 kids with 3 different women? Can you imagine what they would have said about this guy over 8 years? It'd have been breakdown of the black family, this poor example, the black children, that it all would have been about how this is the end of the world. But when it comes to this guy, oh, well, we're electing a president, not a pastor. And just like, this is like, it's not just that they abandoned it. It's just that they exposed themselves to the populace, and most importantly to their kids, because their kids saw it. Their kids said that, you know, you're trading this. Now, listen, politically, it makes sense. Politically, if someone is backing everything you want to accomplish, I don't care if they're a piece of shit or not. That, honestly, I respect the politics.
I do. I don't know. I do.
Well, no, I get it. If they're going to get everything done that I want, I don't care about their personal life. I care less. I'd rather.
I'd be like, how are you going to get everything done that I want when I like have, you know, like, does that make you question
what kind of person you are? Well, listen, you can have all the right political views and still be garbage, right? I mean, you can. Like, they're not you know, definitely linked together. But the thing is that I understand it from a real politic sort of measure. But it doesn't make sense religiously. It doesn't make sense spiritually. That is where it falls apart. And, you know, if you're willing to do that, you're going to lose next generation. That's all I'll say about it. I'll stop right there. So I don't know who's next, but I'll stop right there.
It's me. Guys, I'm struggling. I'm sorry. I'm going to take this stupid thing off here. So this is actually one of my favorite questions, especially after all of you have observed this evening. Sam, Star Circus. Why did you decide to get into podcasting, and what advice do you have for us?
Oh, wow. Why I got into podcasting, at least the one that I started, I first started one with me and my brother, and it was just our natural chemistry, and we just talked about the news of the day. Then wanting to do my own was because of, one, I was partially kind of inspired by Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. But then it was also kind of my background of having a history degree, having a teaching degree, and being able to use it somehow. So in my podcast, I talk about either the past or the present, and then kind of have like a life lesson that's connected to it. And that's what I've why I did it was to be able to tell stories, but to be able to tell it in a way that not only give an account of something, but also be like, and this is what we learned from it. This is something practical. That
like, what are the action notes? I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you gonna do after? I love that.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So if I had any advice, it would be pretty much know why you're doing it. If you know why you're doing the podcast, then you'll do it right.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
I was hoping Sam wouldn't say something like, "What's my advice? Never have more than 3 hosts," or something like that's what Sam would have been like. It's just keep that number tight. They're like, "Oh, okay, thanks, Sam."
No, my advice is give Carla more airtime.
I second that. Unmute your phone.
I'm sure it's quiet next time.
I'm just getting ahead of the comments. That's what's going on. But yeah.
I love that your background too, Carla. Like, I don't know where you are, but it's a vibe. It's
Awesome. That's bookshelf.
lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect, actually. So, Sam, the question that I actually want this to kind of be, if I'll run it by everyone else, but I kind of want to get a recurring last question here. I think it's a good one. What is your most unpopular opinion? And I'm going to throw one out. It actually goes right in line with Carla's background here, is that I think reading books is overrated. I think it is wildly overrated and not exactly.
What?
Okay, let me. Hey, folks, it's an unpopular opinion. Okay, let's not act surprised here.
This is the reaction that you're supposed to get with
exactly. Yeah. So here's the thing. Now, I don't mean that reading isn't important. I'm not saying like that. It is. Like I think children should, learn to read, and they should read books. And I read a ton of books as a kid. Sam's definitely heard this speech before. I think. I don't know. I feel like if anyone, Sam would have heard this. But I read so much, and in high school, college, grad school, and everything in between, I kind of reached critical mass on books a long fucking time ago. And I haven't read a book in probably 7 years. And, or I've read maybe 2 books in the last 10 years. And I don't plan on reading anymore.
Like,
I don't.
Period, or for like personal, or just period? Just no.
I have read 2 books in the last 10 years. I can tell you what they were.
Okay.
So here's the thing: is that there's 2 reasons for this. One is good and one is pretty bad. But the good one is that I find reading entire books to be a fairly inefficient way to learn. For me, at least. I can't speak for everybody else. Now, I love literature.
I can feel that.
I love literature. I love reading. I'm very good at it. But if I want to learn about a topic, I can think. I actually thought of this in high school, in that we would do these book reports, and sometimes the books sucked, and sometimes they were stupid, and sometimes they didn't teach me anything at all, or sometimes it was boring or it was ridiculous. And I was like, I spent 3 or 4 days reading this shitty ass book. I could have watched a 1-hour documentary and learned a hell of a lot more, a lot quicker, and save myself a lot of time. I thought
that part of like Easy A. Oh, I'm sorry, this is for Kyla. Carla and Kai. Where it's like, if I read one more fucking book report about the Demi of the Scarlet Letter, I'm gonna die. I'm sorry.
Those are the kind of books you read, like Scarlet Letter, Pilgrim's Progress, all that stuff.
The movie version of it. Sorry.
Was that a question to me, Carla?
Like what books did you read in high school for the book reports?
I don't know. I don't remember that. I don't remember the specific books. But here's the thing: is that this actually goes into my second point here, is that people tend to I caught on very quick that people would use the amount of books they read in a year as kind of a way to show you how smart they were. And this happened it still happens today. I was like, I read 58 books this year. Good for you. You have one of the most unimpressive intellects I've ever seen. I don't give a fuck how many books you've read a year.
Those kids
That's
like
not fair.
lived for
No,
the
no.
Scholastic Book Fair,
No.
and they're
I was
trying to
one of
earn
those
some pizza
kids.
coupons.
Okay.
Exactly. Like,
No,
we're
listen.
working
All right,
towards
hold on,
the
I
hold
goal.
on.
won free
Allow me
tickets
to
to
finish.
Six Flags
Allow me to
every
finish.
summer, and I got my free Pizza Hut pizza.
Uh,
And 1 year, I read the most minutes out of anyone else, and I read like 6,000 something whatever minutes.
So-
Oh, yes.
Okay? I was
All right.
that kid. Shut
So
up.
listen,
Respectfully, love
Right.
you, but
I am not saying that people who read a bunch of books are stupid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are dumb people who read a bunch of books. I meet them all the time. And that's like, yeah, just because you read a lot doesn't make you for example, and this is why I love telling people I don't read, because everyone thinks I'm smart. I'm not going to bother being modest here. I know everybody knows this, and I always hide my power level on this. I never tell people I don't read, and I say that, and it was like, what? It's like, yeah, turns out you don't got to read 40 books a year to be smart. I'm living proof of this.
On Google.
Yeah, well, it's just like, and listen, there have been illiterate people who are still smart, right? Like, it's just like, there's nothing wrong with reading. And this is the thing. This is what I'm getting to, is that a lot of people just enjoy reading, and that's fine. That's fine. It's perfectly okay. You can learn a lot with reading. I'm not shitting on it, but I have grown quite
Feels like you
weary.
are. Feels like, I don't know.
It's the other way around. It's the other way around. People look down on people who don't read. That's what I'm getting at here, is that, oh, you don't read, must be any. No, I'm smarter than you, and I don't read. So like, what do you want me to tell you? And so that's what I'm saying here, is that reading books isn't as important past a certain time of your life that people pretend it is. Like, I think it's weird, unfortunate time to learn.
25.
Unfortunate time to not remember the word I was going to use, but is vitally important. Is vitally important for children, and so, you know, to build that knowledge base. Because I make literary references all the time. I think about book. I didn't even think. Notice I was talking to
the
Mark.
King James version.
Oh, it's so great.
Oh, yeah.
But I was talking about
I love to sit around and read a little old KJV.
Yeah, right. And so, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's fine, but you know, I can't imagine ever sitting down reading a book cover to cover again the rest of my life, and I don't plan on doing it. And so, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. That's my unpopular
We won't
opinion.
make you, friend. You're good. No
right.
one on this podcast is going to make you TJ read a book.
Maybe if I lose a bet.
I've actually become a big fan of audiobooks. I get the
Me
pain
too.
of the physical book thing, but I've recently become a big fan of audiobooks. But I tell you, of all the things I thought was going to happen on this podcast, I didn't think I was going to see TJ turn into the arch nemesis of LeVar Burton.
Oh,
Oh yeah, Reading Rainbow.
Oh, God, yeah.
I love that show.
Wow.
TJ.
Butterfly in the
I
sky.
need to watch that documentary.
Don't ask why. Don't read it.
What did he ever do to you, TJ?
I love LeVar Burton. I love Roots.
you?
I love
Do
Reading
you?
Rainbow. I love Star Trek: The Next Generation. I got no beef with LeVar Burton, because you know what? He never looked down on me for not reading. He never did it. He encouraged
And
me
he
to
wants
read.
you to read.
He
He
encouraged people to read,
in the
which
rainbow.
I'm cool with. But once you start saying, "Well, I'm actually smarter," because no, you're not. Fuck off, you're not. And so
That's not how you started this conversation. You started hating on
Oh,
reading.
no.
Now
Feels
you're
like we're
trying to
backpedaling
redeem
now.
yourself. Now TJ's trying to like save
No.
himself from the
I
wrath.
stand by everything. Like, reading is not as important as people say it is. It's not. It's important at a certain period of time. But as an adult, you know, if you don't read, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It doesn't make you
But
ridiculous.
there's nothing wrong with people who want to read.
I said that too. I made that very clear. You can't.
We love the Reading
I do
Rainbow.
relate to you, like not wanting to read after a while. If you've read a million books growing up and then you just hit a lull where like all of a sudden you don't read for a little while and then that grows and grows and grows. That happened to me, but I didn't start reading again until probably a year ago.
Mhm.
Now I'm like
Same.
fully into it. But yeah, it took me a minute because I'm like, oh, it just takes so much time.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it was your only form of entertainment and escape, like, yeah, when you get it,
Exactly.
when you can do whatever, you're like,
Yeah.
I just want to veg out.
Reading used to be like my only outlet because I distinctly remember like reading was the only time I could escape. Like, and I could pretend to be so far into a book and everyone just thought I was like, whatever. And it was the only place, like if I pretended to be engrossed in reading, everybody left me alone because reading was so important. So like I used to just read through everything. Like I would get stacks from the library. Like that was my outlet. Like that was my.
Do you remember when I carried Harry Potter books in my bag with me everywhere? Like it was part of my personality. It was not a thing that I left behind anywhere. It was like a gym bag, but books.
Yeah. TJ, we still love you, and that you don't read. But
oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
I'm going to do a Harry Potter episode.
I'm excited for it.
All right.
Back on track.
Yeah.
Who knew that would have? Sam, we're so sorry.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they are, Sam. I'm not. But Sam, your most controversial opinion.
When I saw that question, I was like, I don't have anything, like that practical or that sophisticated. I'm a big fan of movies and also comic books. So TJ, it might just be you and me on this question. I don't know if others enjoy those as well.
Wait, yes. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I am so tired of this attitude, okay? Everyone here likes Star Wars.
Okay.
Everyone here likes Star Wars.
Okay. This
is a trigger, Sam, so that wasn't about you. You know who I'm talking to, okay, guys?
Yeah. I assumed TJ and I were the only children in the room right now. I assumed everyone else had grown up.
Nope.
So when you ask me controversial opinion, it floats to actually a Batman movie. My controversial opinion is I thought Val Kilmer was a good Batman. He got a lot of hate. Simply
I hate him.
Michael Keaton. Actually, as I got older, he's actually a good Batman.
What's your what articles of defense do you have for Val Kilmer in Batman Forever? What did you like about him?
He nails both the Bruce Wayne end of it and the Batman end of it. Just his screen presence is incredible. And so when he gets to the point where he has to choose between Bruce or Batman, I believe it. And despite the fact that movie is a train, he is not the reason that movie is messed up. He's excellent.
All right. Well, I just want to go on record saying Michael Keaton is my Batman. If we're talking about Batmans, I'm glad you put that up.
Wait, what messed the movie up then? What messed it up for you? Please don't say the Riddler.
No, that was the thing. I love Jim Carrey in it. It's I think it's just the story itself. There's a lot of talented people involved, but I don't think that the story actually works for the movie. It's not as coherent, I think, as it should be. It feels very uneven. And I think even the director didn't even get his cut that he wanted produced. I think there's probably some scenes that are missing that I think would probably fill in the gaps that are needed for that movie that I think would make it better.
So before we have you on again, we'll all watch it and restudy it and have feedback for you.
Feel like a live commentary as it.
Yeah.
I'll have no need to go back and watch Batman Forever. I have.
Excuse me. Sorry, sir.
So listen, Batman Forever.
Would you rather read a book?
No. No. So I have pretty much. So I don't know if I would. Like for me, Val Kilmer as both Batman and Bruce Wayne, I just find kind of forgettable. It's not like I wouldn't say bad. It's just that
kind of like cheesy, I thought, but you did not.
Well, yeah, I never like Batman. Honestly, I don't hate Batman Forever. I kind of like it in a lot of ways. Honestly, it's like I don't think it's Casablanca or anything, but it's. I mean, I didn't like the slower regression back to like 60s Batman where it and then they kind of went all the way in with Batman and Robin. It was kind of a weird point. And I didn't care so much about the bat nipples. Everyone made a big deal out of that. I was like, who cares? It's just like Joel Schumacher's thing. But my problem with Batman Forever was Two-Face. I love Tommy Lee Jones as an actor. I could not stand Two-Face. And Two-Face,
I agree with that.
He's one of my favorite Batman villains. And I remember as a kid watching this and I was like, this is this weird ass goofy Two-Face thing going on here. I don't like it at all. So yeah, I think Val Kilmer is okay. I mean, I would probably rank him at the bottom of the Batman. But I don't know, maybe better than George
That is
Clooney.
a good controversial opinion because I'm gonna be thinking about that. I'm gonna be thinking about this for a while.
Yeah, George Clooney, I never really bought. I don't know. They
Hot Batman.
Yeah, and
Good
Batman Forever. Batman Forever, I can't hate. Kiss from a Rose.
Clooney's a good Bruce Wayne. I believe.
Yeah.
In Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And why I like Val Kilmer.
Oh God, he was a good Bruce Wayne.
He's a good Bruce Wayne. Now, for Val Kilmer, why I say he's a good Batman is because Batman should be weird. That's also why Michael Keaton.
Yes, he should.
True.
A real life Batman should be weird. Should be.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that. You gotta. That's really that way.
From the other movie is he should be weird.
He should be. Yeah. And Robert Pattinson's Batman and Bruce Wayne was very weird. I thought they did that too. That was a good job.
I didn't even like Robert Pattinson, but I was really blown away. I thought he had one of the closest to the original concept and comic Batman renditions, and I was shocked by that. I was blown away by it. He was just weird enough that it was perfect.
Yeah,
really good.
It made total sense that he should be weird. He should be off-putting.
But can we talk about Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl?
Thank you.
Yeah,
let's
talk about this. Yeah, what do we got to say about Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl? What do we got?
That's it. That was the statement.
Perfect. And
That
Uma.
was it. Uma Thurman.
Oh my goodness.
I liked Uma Thurman's Poison Ivy. I did like her. I didn't.
Her whole into presenting herself as Poison Ivy at that Halloween ball, I was like,
yeah.
Those are my favorite Batman movies for sure. Personally, no one asked me. I just need to know.
The cheesiest, but I love how they introduced Robin and all those extra characters.
Yeah. It's the people don't like Batman Forever. I don't think Batman Forever is all that bad. I really don't. Batman and Robin is garbage, but Batman Forever is decent enough. It's not as good as the first two, but it hadn't gone to full cheese yet, and it was slowly creeping there, so people downplay it. One thing I will say about this is, so as a kid, I remember reading this Batman comic, and it was about the origin of Two-Face. And Harvey Dent was prosecuting this criminal, and the criminal had snuck in a glass of acid, a vial of acid, and he threw it on his face, and he became Two-Face, whatever. And it always bugged me that his face was perfectly symmetrical. I was like, he threw acid on his face. And that bugged me as a 10-year-old. And then I saw Batman the Animated Series, which is the definitive version of Batman, if you ask me. Batman the Animated Series is the best. Maybe a close second would be the Arkham games. They're amazing. And then, sure enough, for Two-Face, in that iteration of Batman, this vat of chemicals explodes, and that makes him Two-Face. Face perfectly symmetrical. Bugged the shit out of me. It's there's no way that would happen. Then I remember I was so excited to find out that in The Dark Knight, Aaron Eckhart was playing Two-Face. And, he falls onto the gasoline. Once again, I was like, if there's ever someone get this right, it's going to be Dark Knight. They did the perfectly symmetrical thing, too. It was slightly off on his nose.
Is that not because of the comics? Wasn't this face?
It is, but it shouldn't be.
Didn't it show a skull?
That was cool. Yeah, it looked good. But that's what. So I started in the comics. In the comics, it's perfectly symmetrical. It shouldn't be. It bugged the shit out of me. And so I am happy to report this. But there's a new Batman cartoon coming out. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it's called Batman: The Caped Crusader, and it's made by the same showrunner.
He just got it ready to go.
Well, I brought it up here. By the same showrunner who made the Batman the Animated Series back in the 90s. And I found the Two-Face, and look at that. Unsymmetrical as fuck. And I was like, finally, and I also like that his face isn't a different color. I like that it's just a scarred face that's just it's not a perfect line down the center of his face. I just appreciate that, and I'm happy to see that someone finally got that right. And it shouldn't have taken until the year of our Lord 2024 for someone to figure out how to properly draw Two-Face. So that's all I want to say about that.
Finally. We're still working on world hunger, but you know what? We got that Two-Face problem.
I'll take it.
Two-Face.
Yeah,
I can die a happy man now.
It's
the little things in life.
Around here.
Way to go.
Yeah. Well,
good
Jim,
stuff.
it was so nice meeting you. Like, this was so fun. You're awesome. I'm gonna listen to your podcast, both of them.
Same.
Right?
We should link it in the show notes too.
Yeah. We're getting professional. We'll do that.
Professional. I like it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we'll do it.
We
Yeah.
have some redeeming qualities.
Where can we find your content, Sam?
Yeah, you can find it on Spotify, Apple, pretty much all the places except for YouTube. You'd be able to find it.
All right. Well, we need to spread out of YouTube, so we'll try.
I was just thinking we need to figure out how to do this. How to it's called the Kidsmith Podcast. It is not a podcast, so we haven't actually put it in.
I have to tell you, that's funny that you say that because I was talking to my mom about this. Well, she's not my mom. If you hear me talk about my mom, it's a whole other topic, but it's not my actual mom. But anyways, we're talking about this, and I was like, we're a podcast, but we are not just on YouTube. And I was like, we didn't have a podcast. And she was like, let's have people start out on YouTube and blah, blah. We had a whole conversation about this exact thing. She was very supportive. And I was like, that makes sense.
Yay.
Yeah, no, YouTube is actually, from what I hear, one of the best, if not the best place to have a podcast. So I think you guys are doing great.
I think it's how Good Mythical Morning started, right? They all started just podcast, on YouTube. And then they became a whole thing. Good Mythical Morning.
I think a lot of podcasters do. I mean, because it's look at how we just did it. Even Paige, the first time you asked us, you were just like, we're just going to do it. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. But I got to sign off here because my kids are literally about to, I don't even know what they're doing, but it's been a dream, guys.
It's great.
But text me after.
Great meeting.
I gotta go.
Appreciate it, Sam. We'll catch you later, man.
Nice to meet you.
Meet you.